Welcome everybody to Changing of the Hip Hop Guards. I'm the journalist Sincere. That's my partner Uncle E. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with legendary producer MC Jesse West. Some of you may know him as Third Eye. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for joining us this Sunday.
yeah. Good to be here. Good to
Sure.
be here, man. Good
No
to be
doubt.
here,
We want to
man.
talk about 2024, but before we do that, we want to go back and get to know you a little more for those who may not know or just may have forgotten. Where was Jesse West born and raised?
I was born and raised in the Bronx. I grew up in Bronx River Projects, which is, that's where Zulu Nation, Africa Bambaataa, Soul Sonic Force, they came from out of Bronx River. So, Planet Rock and all that shit came out of Bronx River. But it was also a very important hip hop hub in the early days of hip hop. All of the notable hip hop DJs, because people, if hip hop started out with just the DJ first before there
Right.
was an MC, and so all of the notable DJs, they all came through Bronx River to play in the summer. And I was very young, maybe 8, 9, 10 years old, and a lot of the hip hop jams I used to listen to from my window because I was, like I said, I was 10, 11 years old. I had to be upstairs, but I could still hear what was going on from my window. Actually, I would actually be in the window just listening to what was going on because I didn't naturally I didn't understand what was being created in terms of hip hop music, but the music was mind blowing to me even as a 10-year-old. Just the selection, that's to me, that's how hip hop started. It started with the selection of records that the DJs were playing. They weren't your mainstream disco so it wasn't a particular, it was just sounds that I had never heard before. So
Right.
that was how I began with hip hop.
So what early age did you start getting involved?
In creating it, um, I was about 16 when I started making beats. Yeah, I was about 16. So I'm 56 now. So what's that? That's 40 years.
We
I've been
would have
making beats.
we would have had you make for 35, but okay.
Yeah, I've been making beats, banging on drum machines for 40 years, man. Yeah.
So did producing come before anything else? Some may have said they were a DJ first.
No. I was the MC first.
Okay.
I didn't have no inspirations to make music. No aspirations, I should say. At the beginning, um, it was just about writing rhymes and being an MC. I was in some groups. We had routines. We followed the pattern that was at the time when I started rhyming. Cold Crush 4, they was like the premium rap groups. The way they were doing their routines. Using melodies from popular records, and so we had our groups and we was doing the same thing. We was emulating them, in our own way. It wasn't until I got the bug to make records, to actually make a record. um I didn't know anything about the industry. I didn't know terminology like a producer. I grew up thinking that every artist that I heard on the records, I thought they made the music. So when I got the bug that I could make records with my rhyme skills, the first thing that came to my mind was that, okay, so if you want to make records, you gotta learn to make music. Because that's the only way it's gonna be done. I didn't know that there was a producer. So a lot of artists today, and for the past 20 years, I should say, um, It was sort of like a disadvantage because they came into the game knowing that there's people that make beats. So all I have to do is write my rhymes, find a hot producer, and I'm good. You know, 40 years ago, I didn't know any of that. By the time producers started getting a name for themselves, like the Marley Marls and what's my man Larry Smith, I believe, that was doing
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the
yeah.
media stuff. By
Hmm.
the time you started to know, then it was Pumpkin with Pumpkin and the All Stars, who I knew Pumpkin. Um, by the time you started understanding that these guys are just producers, they just make beats, I had already started, and because in the beginning, I used to meet guys that they would play their demos for me. And I remember specifically, I met this guy on the train because I used to take my boombox and get on the train and just ride from Brook, on the two train from one end to the other in the last car with my boombox, just playing my music, seeing the reaction with people. And I met a guy one day. He was like, "Yo, what is that you playing?" And I told him, it was me. And he pulled out a tape. He said, "Yo, I make demos too." And he pulled out a tape and he put it in. And I was listening to it. And I said to him, "Yo, what did you use to get that clap sound? Like what machine you used to get the clap sound?" And he said to me, "Oh, I don't know. My boy makes the beats. I don't know what he used. I just rhyme."
Wow.
And I remember getting upset. I was offended with him. I was like, I
Like,
took
what
his
is-
tape out of my box. I was like, "Yo, yes, take this back. What do you mean? Your boy makes the beats." I didn't know that there was such a thing.
Right, right, right.
To me, he was fake. I was
Eh,
like, "Yo, it's a weird thing, man." But
no,
that
no,
was
not
my
really.
mindset, and that
Mhm.
started me on my journey of making beats.
Right, 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 right.
It's been a long journey.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit because you touched on, coming from Bronx River, home of the Zulu Nation, listening to DJs in the park and playing music and the selection of music that was being played. So, can you just explain a little bit? Because early on, I mean, there were some groups out probably around that time as far as hip hop goes, but a lot of the music that was being played wasn't necessarily what we call hip hop music. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to know how much did that impact, or have an influence on you as far as your style once you started getting into production?
Well, one of the things that it did, because once I started getting into production, the main thing was digging in the crates.
Right.
So, and I was digging in the crates all across the world. I mean, I traveled across the world, and whenever I knew I was going out of town, I was excited because the prospect of new untapped record shops.
Yeah, yeah.
No matter where we went, that was the first thing I was excited for. In fact, I used to go places and be scheduled to stay there for like maybe a week, and after 3 days, I want to leave because I done went record shopping and I got a stack of records and I can't take it. I'm like, I'm out. I'm going back to New York. I need to listen to these records
Right.
because some days you didn't know what you had until you got to a turntable. So if I'm out in New Orleans, with a stack of records, I'm like, yo, I got to get out of here. I need to get back to New York. I'm gonna buy my own flight. I'm getting out of here. It was we were sick like that. But yeah, it because in the beginning, because Bambaataa was someone that we grew up with, there was a time in the projects early in the beginning that all the kids, like now, mind you, we're at this time we're like 11 and 12 years old, right?
Mhm.
But we all are digging in the crates. It wasn't called that then, but the whole projects, all the kids my age and some a little older, we all had crews, and each crew had a crate, that we just shared. Sometimes the crate would stay at his house sometime. And as we found records in our parents' collections or whatever, we put it in the crate. And then we would go to whenever the jams, we would stand there trying to find out because they had the culture where they scratch out the records,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
names. And so we would be there trying to find out, or every now and again, Bam would tell us the name of a record and we would try to find it. We were limited, again, 11 and 12 years old. But someone asked me, I did an interview years ago, and they were asking me, they said, how long you been digging in the crates? And I told them, I said, well, the first record that I bought, I was 11 years old, and they looked at me like, what?
Right,
And I could
right.
see their face was like, this dude is lying, man. 11 years old, but
Already thinking about it. Yeah,
we were because the entire projects was into that. All the kids my age. I just remember this guy, this building, him and his three homeboys had a crate. Me and my two homeboys had a crate. They had crates up the hill. It was all over the place. So that selection, it helped me with that because what I explained to a lot of people that in the early days, the beats, the hip hop beats, they were all kinds of music. It wasn't just one genre of music.
right.
It was you had records like a popular beat from back then was called Mambo Number Five.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, yeah.
Latin record.
Mm-hmm.
You had Keep Your Distance was a beat. That was a rock record. Everybody knows the big beat,
Right,
the
right, right.
big beat. That's a rock record. You had some jazz records. You had there was a record that I remember I bought. Um, and it was my pride and joy. It was called the King Gershon Combo, and I believe he was Portuguese, but he had an album out with a bunch of beats on it. Then it was Sasa Makundo. I could go on and on.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it was just a conglomerate of every genre. It was for us if it had a break, we was with it. We didn't care because before then I wasn't really into rock and roll.
Mhm.
I thought rock and roll was white music. That's what I thought as an 8, 9, 10 year old. But so with the advent of hip hop and us searching for those beats, it led me to places where record shops that I walked by as a kid where it was just all Megadeth and Metallica, you
Yeah,
know, patches and vests and all that, and just playing rock music. And I never paid attention to it. But then when I started digging in the crates, I started going into those record shops
right,
and
right.
and just randomly listening to things. So it just gave me my musical palette was developed at a very early age
Very
because
early
of hip
age.
hop.
So I know you did both. You were making beats, you were rhyming as well. We'll get into the rhyming in just one second, but I'm just really curious because at an 11-year-old digging through crates, looking for music,
Mhm.
and then you started making beats at an early age as well. How did did you have somebody show you, mentor you? How did you even start with,
Yeah, see
dabbling
that's
with
the
the
thing.
machine?
Yeah, see that's the thing. I had a friend. His name is Derek Cheesebro. If I was 16 at the time, he was probably 18 or 19.
Okay.
And he was just someone that I knew. And he came to me one day and he said, yo, I just brought a, because he knew I rhymed.
Hmm.
I had never made a demo or nothing. I just, he knew we would be in the park with my crew. I had a crew called Hot Power 4. And so anyway, he knew that I was an MC. And he said to me, he said, I just bought a TR7, a TR909. He said, I just bought a Roland TR909.
Okay.
And I said, what's that? He said, a drum machine. I said, a drum machine. You mean like a beatbox? Because I was familiar with the Flash, Grandmaster
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Flash
The beatbox.
had the beatbox. And again, when he came to Bronx River with the beatbox, I would be front and center watching it and amazed at this machine that he was using. And it was just it was just it looked like a rack mount, and it just had a bunch of buttons,
Yeah.
and he would just tap on it and he made the beat. And I was mesmerized by that. And so when he said he had this drum machine, I said, well, what do you mean, like a beatbox? And he was like, kind of, sort of. And he was like, yo, you want to see it? And I was like, yeah. And I remember we were in the Chinese restaurant. I said, yeah. And he said, all right, when I get my food, cover me. He lived around the corner. And I went with him. I saw the machine, and I remember when he pressed play and the beat came on. It was just a drum beat, and I was like, "Yo, yo, oh my God, yo, it comes with that." He said, "No, it don't come with these beats. You got to make them yourself." I said, what do you mean? You made this? And he was like, yeah. I said, show me how you did that. And that led to me there for like 3 hours just making beats. And then I was like, yo, can I come back tomorrow? And then within about maybe about 3 months, he just let me take it home. So I would take
Okay.
the 909 home and just be with that all day. And then, one day I went over his house. He had a Casio CZ 101 keyboard he bought. And so now I'm playing with the keyboard. And then, another month later, I come to his house. He got a 4 track, and it just progressed from then
Right.
on. And the thing about it, and I know this brother to this day, and he's still a friend of mine. I see him. We still talk. Um, and I have so much love for him because I never seen him do nothing with this equipment. I never seen him make not one track. Besides that first day where he was like
Yeah.
he did that, I never
Yeah.
seen him. He never played nothing for me. He just would sit and watch me. And he told me years later, he said, because I was amazed at what you was doing, you know. Because before he bought the 4 track, when he had the keyboard and the drum machine, I started making demos with just 2 tape recorders. I
Okay.
record the beat on one tape,
Right.
and then I record with this and sit in the middle and rhyme. While this one is recording with the beat playing on that one. But then I started doing it when he brought the keyboard where it was weird. Like I put the beat on this cassette, then record it to this one with me playing, then take that one and then go to this one. And now I'm recording what I did on that one. Now I'm putting vocals. And then he bought a 4 track. And he was like, now with this 4 track, we don't have to do that no more. And that's and it just I never stopped from there. And I was almost 17 years old. Yeah.
That's crazy,
Yeah.
man. That's a dope story, man. I don't think
Yeah.
kids can even understand how to appreciate the work that you had to
Yeah.
put in
Yeah.
just to record a little something, you know?
And you know what? In all my years of producing and making beats, I only met one kid that came to me and wanted to learn, and that was Young Lord. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with the producer Young Lord. Yeah, I used to work in this studio. It's the same studio where I did when Puffy brought. I had a studio that I worked out of, and Puffy brought Biggie. He was telling me he needed he had the artist that he needed. He wanted to sign, but he was telling me that he can't convince Andre Harrell to sign him without a demo. And could he bring him and would I record him and make a demo with him? So I was like, all right, bring him. And he brought Biggie Smalls. But that studio that I had, I was working at. It wasn't my studio. It was a brother named Greg Trotman, another dope producer that was down with Puff named Tony Dofat.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
one of the principal producers in the studio too. Um, so I was working in there one day and somebody knocked on the door and I went and it was this young kid. He was like about 15. He said, yo, I heard there's a studio here. And I was like, yeah, there's a studio. He said, can I come in and see? And I was like, come in. I let him in. And I let him in and I just turned around and went back to my MPC and SB 1200. To the point I forgot he was behind me. I forgot he was there. And then once I realized and turned around, I was like, oh shit, I forgot you was here, shorty. And he said, yo, I want to do this, man. Can I? He said, would you teach me? I said, well, yeah, I teach you. He said, I go to, some days after school, can I come by and watch you and you show me a few things? I said, sure, no problem. And so he did it a couple of times. He came, I showed him a few things, showed him how I was programming the beats. And then one day he came to me, he said, listen, man, he went to Cardinal Spellman High School and he said, I'm graduating this year. And my dad said to me that I could either have a car or SB 1200 because back then the SB 1200s was like $2,000.
Oh man.
They go for $7,000 now, but back then they were like $2,100. So he said his dad told him um, he got a choice. He could get a car for his graduation or he could get the SB 1200. And he asked me, he said, and this was late at night, I never forget. He said, what should I do? I said, tell your father you want the SB 1200. And if you do what I taught you to do on that SB 1200, you'll be able to buy a car. And he was like, word? I said, yes. Matter of fact, hold on. I said, come in. And I gave him a box of floppy disks uh, with drums and stuff on it. I said, here, take this. When you get the SB 1200, these are drums, beats, and stuff for you to get started. And it's young Lord to this day, man.
Wow.
But I bring him
Dope.
up because, you know, as many young artists, countless, I can't even name them all, like thousands that I've worked with, none of them ever wanted to know how to make the music. They were just
Hmm.
into writing. That's the only young kid that came to me and was like, yo, could you show me how to
Yeah.
do this? He he wasn't an MC. He was interested in making music, you know.
Right. Right.
You know, I showed him a little bit and he took it, man, and proud of the brother, man. He did a lot with it, man. You know, he did a lot with it, man.
Nice. Nice.
I was going into the market and I heard somebody beeping, beeping, beep, 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 and I looked and it's this brand new yellow BMW tinted, kitted out. I'm like, who the hell is that? And then when the window went down, it was Young Lord.
Nice. Nice.
I said,
Yeah.
see, remember what I told you? And he was like, yes, you told me, man.
Yeah. That's funny. I was just gonna say. I wonder how many cars he got now for that.
Oh yeah, yo,
That's dope.
he's
Yeah.
incredible. He's an incredible brother, man. You know, I appreciate him, and you know, I'm
Nice.
glad that you know, I was a part of his journey. You know,
Dope. Dope.
Talk a little bit about creating your own demo and shopping and what labels and some of the feedback you got earlier on.
well, the first it wasn't long. As soon as I like within a year of me making demos, I got a record deal. Um, with it was a label called Vintertainment Records, and the owner, his name is Vincent David. So that was the label that uh, put out Pee Wee Herman, Joe Love,
That's
Pee
good.
Wee
Yeah. Yeah.
Herman, and that led to an electric that record was so big it helped him get in a distribution deal with Elektra,
Hmm.
and him having that distribution deal with Elektra, I guess helped him sign Keith Sweat, and
Oh
then
wow. Okay.
once he signed Keith Sweat, that first album I Wanna, he was off to the races, you know. And he's another brother I just seen recently, you know. I just seen him the other day. Well, not the other day, maybe about 4 or 5 months ago. I ran into Vincent Davis, you know. So
Nice.
that was a cool blast from the past. But, you know, again, when I signed with him, my mother had to sign. I was 17 years old. And he was working, taking us into the studio. And then that Pee Wee Herman record was a monster.
Hmm.
And once that record took off, it was like he forgot all about us, you know. So that deal eventually fell through, and miraculously, you know, right after that, I started working with Gordon Williams. You know, most people know him as Commissioner Gordon. He's actually the one that produced my first album on Motown. So right after Vincent Davis, uh, I started working with Gordon. But I remember. Remember the Grand Mixer DST?
Of
Also, he's
course. Yeah.
known as
Yeah.
Grand Mixer DST. That's my brother, man. And I met him. And how I met him was, you know, I used to hang out on this mall strip right down the block from Edenwald Projects, where he's from. And you know, I had my demo and everything, and everybody on the block knew me for my demos, because you know, like again, we'd be out there with my boombox, and all the street dudes that's on the corner hustling, they all knew about me and my music. You know, they would buy tapes from me. I would give them
Mm.
tapes, and I would watch DST come down the hill, and was amazed because at this point I didn't know. I mean, I knew So Sonic Force, you know, Pow Wow and Mr. Biggs,
Right. Right.
Bambaataa, but that was different because I grew up with these guys. They were like regular guys to me, even though, you know, Planet Rock blew up crazy and they were celebrities. But to me, I didn't really know any celebrities other than them. And D was a celebrity to me, and but I didn't know how to approach him. And one of my friends, we was talking and we were looking up. You used to could look up the hill and see D coming. So we were standing there, and I said, "Look, here come DST, right?" And he was like, "Yo, that's what you need to get on. You need somebody like him, right? And I was like, yeah, but I don't know him, man. He was like, yo, you don't gotta know him, man. Just walk up to him. And I was like, nah, man, I ain't gonna walk up to him. And as he got close, my man said, yo, D, can I talk to you for a minute? Come in for a minute, man. Come here, man. And I was like, oh my God, yo, you calling him over here? And he came over and he was like, yo, my man here, my man makes demos. You know, he rhymes, he makes demos. He's hot. And D was like, okay, all right, shorty, you make demos? He was like, well, you know, when can you get a demo to me? I said, I got one in my pocket right now because I can't keep my tape in my pocket. So he was like, oh, okay. So I gave him the tape. And I remember when he took the tape from me, he said, what's on this? I said, it's like 9 songs on there, right? And he was like, okay, cool. Who you working with? I was like, nobody. He said, nobody. Well, who's doing the music for you? And I went, who's doing the music for me? I do the music. And he was like, all right, shorty, I'll take the tape and listen to it. And he walked away. And I was like, you know, I said to myself, the fuck is wrong with him asking me who make my music, man? See, and I told my man when he walked away, I was like, see, man, he a fucking clown. He asking me, you know, I shouldn't even gave him my demo. And he was like, yo, nah, man, yo, it's a good thing he gonna listen to it. I'm telling you, he gonna put you on, right? And I was like, whatever. Went, and then maybe about an hour later, some kid comes running down the block and he said, who's Jesse West? And I said, me. Why? What's up? He said, yo, D wants you to come to his house right now. I said, what? He said, he wants you to come to his house right now. So we went to his house, and that's how I ultimately met DST. But again, his first meeting, he said to me, listen, man, I want to work with you. I think you're nice. He said, but we got to be honest with each other. And I was like, okay, you know, what you want to know? He said, who made these beats, man? I said, yo, I made these beats, man. He was like, you made these beats? I said, yeah, like, why are you asking me that? He was like, well, what you use to make them? I said, well, I got a TR-909 to use the drums. I got a CZ-101. I got a Tascam 4-track. You know, he was like, all right. Okay, that's enough. Stop. And he had a studio. He had an incredible studio. DST actually was the first person, maybe one of the first 5 people in the United States with Pro Tools.
Wow.
You know, back when Pro Tools was only a digital editing software.
Right.
It just edited 2 tracks. That's all it
Yeah,
did.
man, that's
And
crazy.
it was $30,000 just to do that. Just
Wow.
to edit 2 tracks. You put your DAT, you upload your music from your DAT,
Yeah.
and then you can edit it digitally on the screen. That was 30 grand. We
Damn.
talking 88, 1988, 87.
Holy
You know.
shit.
Yeah, so Pro Tools evolved a lot since then, but D was one of the first. So that's how that's how our relationship started. And one day I walked into his studio and Gordon Williams was there. They had a record out called they had a group called Touch, and they had a big club record out called Without You. And so I knew Gordon passingly through another mutual friend, but when I found out he had a record that was playing on the radio, that made me gravitate more toward him, you know. And then same thing, he one day I went to his studio, and he was an incredible producer being back then. That's why people ask me, on your first album, how come you only did 2 tracks, And I was said because at the time, Gordon was like a mentor to me,
Okay.
He was teaching me so many things, and I loved his music. To me, his music was on another level. I didn't have any experience with going in the studio and recording, with an SSL board, and I didn't have that experience. He did. He actually had a degree in audio engineering at the time.
Mm.
He went to school for that. So I just sat back, and like I said, I loved his music, first of all, and I sat back and I learned a lot of things from him and concerning producing the music from him and DX
Yeah.
team. For him and D, those are the two main mentors, man, that taught me about production. You know,
Wow.
both of them equally taught me a lot. D taught me more so with the art of production because it took me at least 10 years of doing it to understand what production is as opposed to beat making.
to
You know,
making
it's two
beats,
different
right, right,
things. Yeah.
right.
So
Just out of curiosity, when you met DST for the first time, was that before Herbie or after
it
Herbie?
was after
Really?
Herbie. It
After.
was after we
Okay.
all saw him on TV get a Grammy.
Okay. Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
know, so he was mega to us. So you
Yeah.
know, he was so big to me that I wouldn't even speak to him. He would come to the store and
Yeah.
play video games, and I would just be standing next to him watching him play video games with a demo in my pocket, but afraid to say anything to him. You know, if it wasn't for my
Yeah.
homeboy Scotty Waddy was like, "What? Yo, D, come here, man. This is my man. He made music." You know, and that's how I
Yeah.
met D.
You know what's funny, Sincere? Every so often when he talks, man, I hear like when you be, on some of your albums or some things that you've done, that
Yeah,
voice
yeah,
it be
yeah, yeah,
coming
yeah.
out sometimes. It's bugged out.
What was the
Yeah.
creative process like for that debut album and some of those studio sessions?
Um, well, a lot of the songs, we just recorded on the fly. Like well, not actually record, but Gordon was constantly making music, and I would come in the studio and I hear a track and go, all right, let me get that track. And then I would just go. Sometimes I would sit right there and write, or I would go home and write, and then come back. Yo, I wrote to that song, and then he put the mic on and re-record. And he's the one that actually shopped the deal and got me the deal with Motown
Okay.
Records.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know, I was actually at the time when he got me the deal with Motown, I was actually locked up at the time. But those were the days. Those were the days where you couldn't tell the label that the artist was in prison. You
Right,
know,
right, right.
we couldn't tell him, so he had to stall him until I came home. He stalled him.
This is before knowing that would make you actually sell millions of records.
Yeah, right, right,
Yeah.
right. Because when I was recording the No Prisoners album on Motown, you didn't even want to curse on the records.
Mhm.
You didn't even want to. Like I said, a line in a record. I think it was Renegade when I said, no, on No Prisoners. I said, if you don't like it, to hell with you, and if your mother don't like it, to hell with her too. That was that was touchy.
Right.
Think about that. All I said was, if your mother don't like it, to hell with her too.
Yeah.
It was a little cringy, at the time, man. So that's how far that we have, in terms of
That's kind of,
tolerance.
yeah, that's kind of like almost the effect Nas had with that I went to hell for snuffing Jesus, but prior to that.
Right. Now that was really over
Yeah.
the edge. And then Biggie was the same way. Biggie used to he used to always fuck me up with that taking it to the limit with the things he was saying.
Yeah, there's some
Uh,
stuff he said that was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
little out of pocket.
Yeah, yeah. Where I used to be like, yo, like that song, you're dead wrong. I tell people that it's not so much that he got the title from me, but anyway, he did. We was walking down the street. I remember it was freezing cold. We was both walking down, me, him, and Little C's walking down the street, freezing, and he started saying the rhyme to it. And when he got to the part where he said, Hail Mary, Mother of Grace, smack the bitch in the face, take a Gucci bag and a North Face. When he said that, and I said, yo, Big, you dead wrong for that, man. He said, word, that's the title of the song.
Oh,
I said, "Man." I said, okay. I
no,
said,
no.
yeah. I said, but you dead wrong for that one right there, yeah. But he used to do that all the time.
Back to that debut album. What kind of reviews did you get off of that? What was the feedback?
Um, okay. The album didn't really do well because first of all, it was the first rap record that legendary Motown records that they had ever released. I wasn't the first that they signed. They had a girl from the West Coast named Trouble who passed away.
Hmm.
She was the first one they signed, but we were beasts in the studio. So even though they signed her before us, we delivered our albums uh quicker. Well, we delivered my album because when I signed with Motown, I signed a production deal, and I signed at the same time with Rich Nice. I don't know if you know Rich Nice. That
Yeah,
used to be
I
on
just
this.
met him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. Me and him signed a Motown together. So we did my album first, and then we did his album second. And he was fortunate because he was able to watch what happened with my album and kind of tweak his album. So he had a little more, he had a little more momentum. He was a little more, he went a lot more commercial than I did, you know, because my thing was hardcore. I wanted to stay. I did do on that album, you know, I was following the trend. So, you know, I did do kind of little soft radio friendly records, you know, one or two, but for the most part it was hard and um, conscious, you know, it was more socially conscious. And what happened was Kid Capri started playing my music on his tapes. And you know, Kid Capri was the man. And you know, I mean, if you had your song played on his tape, you was gonna get heard. You was gonna go far. Them Kid Capri tapes traveled far overseas. I met so many people that used to vibe that you know, like celebrities. Like I met Das Effects, I met Noriega. You know, those two particular artists. They were, when I met them, they were like, they mentioned Kid Capri. Yo, he used to bang your shit on that Kid Capri tape. Yo, I used to like, no, he was like, yo, I used to go in the store to buy Kid Capri tapes, and I used to be like, yo, if ain't no Jesse West on this tape, you know, I don't want this one. Give me one with Jesse West. You know, and Kid
That's
Capri,
crazy.
you know, Kid Capri, that's my brother, man. I love Kid Capri, man. He always showed me love, man. We talking, you know, that record came out in 89, you know. So, you know, what is that? That's like 30, 35, 36 years now, you know. And yeah, 35 years, man. And that's been my man for 35 years, man. Always show me support. You know, in fact, I'm recording I've been recording an EP now, and he's the reason why, you know.
Mm.
Capri's the reason why, because I haven't recorded, man. And you know, I make beats every day. My sword is still sharp lyrically, and my beat game is as best as good as it ever been, because I never stopped. But it took me a while to get back in the booth, to get acclimated with that, because I didn't have a passion for it anymore. Because to me, it was like, what am I going to say? You know? Um,
Right. And you said because of Kid Capri, is it because of seeing what he's doing with his own projects, or was he actually in your
um,
ear, like telling you
well,
to?
well, well. When I saw what he was doing with his projects, that made me feel real good, you know. But it was on the premise of that is where he reached out to me, you know, was kind of like, yo, if I could do it, if I'm doing it,
Right,
why
right.
you ain't doing it, you know? And yeah, he just called me out of the blue, man. Was like, yo, I want you to come see me, man. And I went to go see him, and he was like, this is what I wanted to talk to you about, man, about you getting back in the booth, man.
Nice,
You know, and that's how it started, man. So I'm like 7 songs deep, man. You know,
nice,
it's
nice.
a, it's a, it's a, it's not like before in terms of the process. It's a longer process. It's a much longer process, you know.
Longer now?
Huh?
You said it's a longer process now?
Yeah, for me to record, yeah, much longer than in my prime.
Okay.
Because in my prime, like writing, for instance, um, it was easier to write a rhyme because I could say anything, you know,
Okay, I get
whatever
what you're
comes to
saying.
mind, you know. But now every line has to make sense. Every line, you know, it has to mean something, you know. It has to, when a person hears it, you know, I don't write about myself anymore. I'm not making those songs about me anymore, you know, because I did that already. I'm not, you know, I like that backpack hip hop bars type of thing, you know, but I did that, man. I did Fight Club. I did all of that. You know, at this point, I don't have nothing to prove in terms of, at my age, making a record talking about how nice I am with you know, how nice my rhyme skills are.
Right, right.
Now I'm trying to make world music. I'm trying to make music that's going to
Good.
travel the world, you know.
At,
Some good feel good music, yeah.
at what
Yeah.
at what point after your debut album do you decide, you know, maybe to put the mic on the rest and start chopping your beats? And what was your earlier placements?
Okay, well, I never see. This is the weird thing. Even though I started getting real good and experienced with making beats, I never thought to make beats for anybody else. I didn't want to be a producer. I just wanted to produce my own because my passion was for rhyming. I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to, and I thought that it would be something a little different to because at that time there was no one else that I felt that was as good as I was at doing both. So, for me that was my thing. Can't nobody make there's producers that were incredible to me, like the Pete Rocks and the Primos and them, you know, and even when Dr. Dre came later on, cats like that. Um, but they couldn't rhyme like me, you know what I'm saying? And then there was MCs that was just as good as me on the mic, but they couldn't make beats like me. So, that was my thing. It was Puffy was the one that convinced me to start producing for other artists. So really, really, really my first placement um was an album by there was a reggae artist named Shelly Thunder. And
Right, right.
but that was more like co-production because it was really good. What I did mostly was write lyrics for her. And but that was the first time that I got paid for anything concerning music,
Mm.
because that was before the Motown deal. So that was the first time I got paid. The first time I got money from a record company for doing anything musically. Um, and by the way, that it was a check for $666.
Hmm.
My first record company check ever in my life was $666.
See,
Crazy.
you're about what, 19,
At the
18,
time, like
19,
20,
20.
yeah, 20, 21, around that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was over 20 because like I said, I was locked up and I know I turned 20 on Rikers Island. And once I came home, I never went back.
It's
So it
not
never,
bad.
never
600
returned.
and something dollars at 21 for
What? That was
that
shit. I
little
was
bit.
happy. I was
Yeah,
happy. What? You know how happy I was?
that time too.
And
Right.
proud, like, yo. And it showed me that I have a future in this,
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I didn't uh uh I didn't start first person that the first placement that I ever got that I produced was the Genius. Um
Yeah, I wanted to
on
ask you
the
about that.
Jizzle.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was the first placement I ever got. And that was because of he had a manager named Mel Kwan that
Mm-hmm.
approached me and wanted to manage me at the time. And Mel Kwan was good brother. And so I was like, bet. And then he introduced me at the time. He was also managing RZA and Jizza. So that's how I met them brothers. And then later on, A Son, I met Old Dirty later on. But the thing about that song I did on Jizza, I did what they asked for. They wanted a commercial radio friendly song.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, I was happy to do it, because it was on they were on Cold Chillin'. Like I said, that was my first placement. But later on I heard the album, which was produced primarily by Easy Mo B and his brother LG did one or two tracks, but it was the bulk of it was Easy Mo B. And I had never met Easy Mo B, never heard of him. Mel Kwan had just played, you know, he was like, the album's done. I'm gonna pull up on you and let you hear the album. And when he played the album for me, I was pissed off, man. I was like, yo, why, my song don't belong on this album, man. That album, Mo B's tracks was incredible, man. Like he was just a fresh new level to me at that time. Mo B made me aware of sound design
Mm-hmm.
because he was one of the first producers where I was being blown away by the way he sounded. I was already digging in the crates. I can hear a few of the beats. I knew where the samples came from, because I had them, I had heard them, but it was the way he was making them sound. Um, was so that he started making me think in those terms with my own shit, like
Right, right.
EQ in the snare a certain way, before you even sample it. Um, and the funny thing with Moby is, once I got cool with him and I started going to his house, I had a full blown studio, mixing board, NS10 speakers, because like I said, I'm at this time I'm learning from Gordon and DST. These were professionals, so everything I brought and advice from them was all professional. You
Mm.
know, I had monitors, I had everything. And you go over Easy Mo B house, and all he had was the SB 1200 and 950 and a mixer,
And that's it. He's
a
putting out.
regular Gemini mixer, and like a speaker that you use to do parties.
Mm.
He didn't even have monitors. He didn't even have
Yeah,
real
yeah.
studio monitors. And I was baffled. And I was baffled. Like, the running joke used to be, when Mo B know you coming, he hide his shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That used to be the joke. Like, I remember
So you
one
don't know what
time,
he's using.
yeah, because I remember, true story. I remember one time me and Nine was working on an album together, right? And we went to go see Mo B, you know, to hear some beats. I hadn't been to Mo B's house in like, maybe 10 years or something like that. And so I remember Mo was like, he said, yo, y'all want something to drink? He was living in Brooklyn at the time. He said, yo, y'all want something to drink? And I was like, yeah, we get something to drink. And he left the room. And I was looking under the beds and shit. I was looking in the closet. I was like, yo, nah, I'm telling you, this nigga hiding a board or some shit here. You know? Right, true story, man. If Mo B see this, he gonna be cracking up. Because I know he remember that day. He was like, yo, want something to drink? I said, yeah, give me something to drink. He left the room. I was like, nah, stay by the door, man. I was looking under the bed, looking in the closet. I was like, I'm telling you. Because the same thing, he just had the same setup.
That's crazy.
And this is like 15 years later. He had the same setup. I think he might have had a board back then. I don't remember, but I was like, no, he didn't have a board, because I was like, he got to have a board. He's just an incredible dude, man. Whatever he
Did,
was doing, man.
I was gonna say though, did you ever find out, like, was he just kind of making the foundation there and then going somewhere else, or did you ever find out his technique?
Nah,
No.
to this day,
Yeah,
to
that's
this
crazy.
day, I don't know what Mo B was doing, man. I don't know. Like, I remember one time I did a remix for that Come Do Me record on the Genius album. We was working at Green Street, and that was the first time I met Mo B, in
Okay.
person.
Hmm.
And he came by because he wanted to tweak something he was working on that album. And he came to the studio with a cassette and gave the engineer the cassette, and it had his sounds on the cassette.
Mm.
So he was sitting there sampling a kick and a snare off of the cassette, into the SB 1200,
Right.
off of a cassette. And I was like, what, the cassette? Because like I said, I came up with pristine, like I would never sample from a cassette. And like
Okay.
I said, he had me thinking in terms of dirt, grit, the usage of it.
Mm.
I wanted everything to be clean.
Right,
I,
right,
I
right.
wanted everything to be clean. Like, if I had a record that had crackling on it, I wouldn't sample it.
Really?
I
I
love
would spend time trying to clean it. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get
Yeah,
the
yeah.
crackles off. But he would sample it, you know. He would sample it, and that crackling would be part of his beat.
Right,
And
right.
I
So
started to learn that.
he was catching a little bit more of that grittiness. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right, right. I
how do you
learned a lot from different producers. Pete Rock. Uh, I did a session with Pete Rock, and because before Pete Rock, I didn't want to touch a SB 1200, because, like I said, it was expensive. It was $2,100, and it only had 10 seconds.
Hmm.
Whereas the MPC 60 had, over a minute and a half. And that combined with a S950, I'm good. You know, how much time I got? 10 seconds. How much? 2100? Hell no, get out of here. I don't want that. And then I did that session with and that's how, like I was telling you the story about young Lord with the SB
Mhm.
1200, because right before he came, I did a session with Pete Rock, and then the next day I went and bought a SB 1200.
Oh
You
wow.
know,
Okay.
after, yeah, and that was one of my first time. I just met Pete Rock, and I was engineering the session, and you know, because the same studio, like I said, where Puff brought Biggie, I worked there as an engineer, and so the dude that owned it, you know, he was connected, and they booked time with him, and I engineered. I was like, oh, Pete Rock, come on, let me engineer. I want to meet Pete, and him and CL, they left me there with the SB 1200 with it, and they left as soon as he walked out, because he loaded it up, because I was like, let's see what this dude gonna do with this SB 1200, man. I gotta see this, you know, because I believe at the time that's all he came with was with the SB 1200, not even a 950. He might have had a 950. I don't remember, but I remember it was the SB 1200.
Right.
And when he loaded up his disc and he played the beat, shit was incredible. I was like, what the fuck? You know, I'm just engineering, you know, just, and all my mind is on, yo, what the fuck? How is he doing this? And so when him and C, I went to the store, as soon as they walked out the door, I went to work on that SB 1200, playing the pads, playing the sounds, and just analyzing what it was that he did, you know. And that's when I was introduced to chopping. You know,
Okay.
these are things I didn't know about. You know, I didn't know about tick, because you know, necessity. You only have 10 seconds, so
Mhm.
I was still looping. You know what I'm saying? So many times I would play records. I'd be digging in the crate. I'll play records, and it's a clear kick, snare, and a hi hat, but it's not enough to loop. You know, and I would just bypass that. I was like,
Mm.
damn, I wish he could shut up. Damn. So
Right.
those
Right. Right.
guys introduced me to, you know, take
Take
those
those
pieces.
pieces. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy.
And right, so I was first introduced to that by Pete Rock,
Is this
and
all around the Blue Funk sessions?
this was before that.
Okay.
This was before that. Um, and so, you know, like I said, even though I did that project with Jizza, I still wasn't. You know, it was just I was there. They asked me to do it. I do it. You know, for you, Melquan, I do it, and you know, and I did it. But I still went back to, you know, I'm not. I didn't have no interest in producing other artists, and you know, I was shopping the demo, trying to get a record deal. And at the time, you know, Puffy was the youngest A&R at Uptown, and we, you know, we had a rapport where he he was always interested in whatever it was that I was doing. So if I called him and was like, you know, back in those days, the one of the formulas to get a record deal is just have a bunch of songs, you know, have enough for an album, and that would increase your chances of getting a deal. So whenever I would have 7 or 8 songs done, I would call him, yo, Puff, I got 7 new songs. And he was like, word, come on down. I want to hear them. And what he wouldn't sign me, but what he was doing was he was going, yo, let me get that beat, man. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, that song you played, man, let me get that beat. And I was offended. I was like, yo, that's my song, man. Like, why would I give you that beat? I'm trying to get a deal. I know the beat is hot, but it's for me, it's mine.
Mm.
And he kept doing that, you know. And then, you know, one day he said to me, I'm working on this project for Heavy D, the Blue Funk album. And he was like, um, I'm gonna bring Heb to the studio to listen to some beats. And I was like, man, I ain't really got no beats. He was like, all of them songs you play me, play some of them beats for him, man. And I was like, nah, man, you know, I'm keeping them. I'm not gonna do that. And he said, there was a song, he remembered the title of the song. He was like, you played this song for me, man. It was called such and such, man. He said, yo, I'll give you 5 G's for that beat. I said, huh? You give me 5,000 for that beat. He said, yeah. He said, yeah, man, and 2 more if you want. I said, wait a minute. Dude, you're gonna buy 3 tracks for me for 15,000. And he was like, yeah. I was like, you lying, man. You lying, man. He said, yo, listen, I'm bring Hav to the studio, have these beats ready. And he brought Hav in, and the Hav didn't, it's funny. Hav picked one beat from that session, right? He picked one beat, and when I went to the studio to lay it down, Hav came in and he was like, "Yo, you got more beats?" You know what I'm saying? He was like, "Yo, I'm feeling this beat, but I'm on I'm on something different now." You know what I'm saying? And I was like, "Yo, I don't really have no other beats, but I can make something for you." And he was like, "You could make some." I said, "I could make something," because those days I carried a crate with me to the studio. So I was like, "Yo, I got my crate. I could come up with something for you." And that's how we came up with two of the tracks. I did three on the album, but two of the tracks, one Slow Down, no, not Slow Down, Silky, and the bunch of niggas with me, Guru, Biggie, Busta Rhymes, and Rob O.
Mm.
We all rhymed
Mhm.
on that track together. Um, that one I made right there in the studio with him, and Silky I made right in the studio. But Silky was actually his idea. He said, "Yo, I want to do something off of that was it King Floyd? Silky, Silky, man, whatever."
Mhm.
He wanted
Yeah.
to do something on that, so he said, "Could you put something together?" And I stood. I had the record, and I put something together right there. And it was that was a great experience, man. And
What was that studio session like for a bunch of niggas? All those MC, like what was that session?
um, it was very interesting. Um, by then I was used to being in that environment. I was just all business, since I was behind the board, since was the producer on the track. Um, we rhyme. I rhymed first on the record, so my vocals was already done from day one. Before Hab put his vocals, before Big Guru, before they came, my vocals was already there. And so I was just strictly business when they came in there. And the interesting thing, I tell people that when I used to rhyme, I always wrote my rhymes, but um, I could never go in the vocal booth and read from a piece of paper. To me, that was a disadvantage. It was taboo, because to me it was like, if you have to read your lyrics, then you don't have it down pat. So it's not going to be your best performance. And that was my ideas. I don't feel like that anymore, because I've seen artists. When I did the Step Into a World with KRS, he did his whole vocal performance reading it from a piece of paper. And his vocal performance on that record is crazy. So, but anyway, what was interesting is when Guru came to record his vocals, he went in the booth. I remember he had his girl with him. He went in the booth and he was reading from a piece of paper. And he did his take. He did a take reading it. So I'm sitting there watching him, and he did a take. And when he finished, he said to me, "How that sound?" I said, "The rhyme is dope, man. It'll be even better once you get it down pat." And he said, "Word, let me get an ad lib track." I said, "Oh shit, okay." I said, "Fuck it, you want to keep it? You got to keep it." And he did an ad lib track. I never forgot that, man. And he said, "How that sound, man?" I said, "I like the rhyme. I think it sounds dope, man. It's gonna be even better once you get it down packed." And he went, "Yeah, let me get an ad lib track." I said, "Oh shit." That motherfucker said, "Fuck you. I'm keeping this." Fuck you, meaning once I get it down pat. Yeah, he got offended by that shit. I never forgot that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, all this.
What-
I'm sorry, no, all this stuff that you're saying up until now, like this is all because of what was going on in your mind as you're trying to become, an artist and everything, of your
Mm-hmm.
perception of what you think how things are supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's so crazy at the same time because it's like in a way you were kind of molding yourself and to a certain standard that you know what I mean? Like it's very rare to find. Like in other words, these are things that regular consumers look at like, oh, you don't write your own rhymes. That's crazy. Or you don't, you know what I mean? And you just
Yeah,
were doing that because of just your own perception of what you thought
yeah,
things were
yeah. Of
supposed to
what I
be.
thought, and
That's crazy. That's
what I
dope, man.
always appreciate me is having the mindset that all of these perceptions that I had, I was never emotionally attached to them to where I couldn't change it on the drop of a dime once
Right, right.
the information changed. Then I was like, oh, so okay, all right, that was where my flaw in thinking was at,
Yeah, yeah.
and I would just adjust it. I didn't fight it. You know, I would be, oh, okay, I was wrong about that. All right, so now this is how I'm a approach it. You know, I learned something new. I was always open to learning. You know, always open to learning something. That's how my whole journey started. Because, like I said, that first day when I saw that TR 909, and he played that beat, the first thing that came out my mouth was, "Show me how you did that.
Mm.
Show me how you did that." And so that has been kind of like my path, my whole career. Is show me that. How'd you do that? I want to learn that. You know, I never had no real ego. You know, at times, yeah, at times I can't say it, but when it came to learning and improving, you know, my ego got out of the way. You know, there was times where there was a little ego involved with, you know, people critiquing what I do, but you know that's natural, and I don't suffer from that anymore. You know, now it don't matter to me. You know, I've done so many things, man. I'm just grateful, man. It's like I was always in the right place at the right time. It's like it was
Yeah, yeah,
destined.
yeah, yeah, for
You
sure.
know, like it was destined. You know, like the House of Pain song with Biggie and Tupac. The only song they did together. You know, I don't know. I just happened to be the one to produce that song. You know,
Right.
and my time to meet Pac and really build with him, because when I knew I was going to meet him, I had so many questions that I wanted to confront him about, because I was still so militant. You know, I came from the Public Enemy era, and I didn't like the thug life and what he was about. You know,
Okay.
because to me it was detrimental to our people, detrimental to the kids. You know, I was on some teach the children shit, and I didn't agree with what he was representing. So when I knew he was coming to the studio, I was like, "Yo, wait till I get this motherfucker. Wait till he got some explaining to do." You know,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
my mindset. And